Agriculture is the foundation of a country. A solid foundation brings security to the country. Since the founding of the People's Republic of China, the Communist Party of China has been leading the people to start a nationwide campaign to combat hunger. 75 years have passed, and the painful memories of hunger have faded. With less than 9% of the world's arable land, China has managed to feed 1/5 of the world's population. The modernization of agriculture and rural areas reflects the quality of Chinese modernization. Today, the developing country with a population of over 1.4 billion is working hard in the fields all along toward the goal of building a strong agriculture on the path of common prosperity. In June, at the Oils and Fats Museum of China, the tribute to the 75th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China, Food and Oil Coupons exhibition attracted many post-2000s.
Food coupons? Were they used to buy food?
Never seen that before.
I've seen them in TV dramas.
Food is the most important thing in life. In the early days of the PRC, the country faced severe food shortages. To address the imbalance between supply and demand, in 1955, the government issued interim measures for ration coupons in cities and towns, adopting a system of fixed quotas and planned supply for grain. Coupons began to influence people's lives.
Look at the coupon I'm holding. Its face value is 5.5 fun. When cadres had meals at farmers' homes, they would give a family one coupon for each meal. How much was it worth? It was only enough for 2 drops of oil.
From the issuance in 1955 to the abolishment in 1993, the era of coupons tells the bittersweet stories of people's lives and reflects the fact of the PRC facing material shortages. Before the founding of the PRC, then U.S. Secretary of State Acheson predicted the first problem which every Chinese government has had to face is that of feeding this population. So far, none has succeeded. Every grain matters to the happiness of the people and the security of the country. Looking back on the 75 years, the CPC has always prioritized food security in state governance. Transplant seedlings after lesser fullness and wait for race flowers. In Yuanbao village, Changsha City, Heilongjiang province, the rice transplanter is busy working.
I have 40 hectares of land, and I can make over 600,000 yuan each year.
Just a few hundred meters away, the village's pencil factory is as bustling as the summer farming. The factory employs more than 100 villagers. These employees, freed from the farming, produce 1/5 of all the pencils in China.
Farming is fully mechanized now. After the harvest, we work part-time at the factory. My wife and I both work at the factory, and together we earn at least 110,000 to 120,000 yuan a year. Life now is much better than in the past.
Zhao Xuechuan heard stories about the past from his ancestors. His grandfather Zhao Yulin was the inspiration of the character Zhao Guangding in the novel, Storms.
Everyone knows I'm the poorest man in the village. You gave me the nickname, Zhao Guangding.
These harsh realities, remembered in literary works, are a microcosm of rural areas of old China. Before the founding of the PRC, landlords and rich peasants, less than 10% of the rural population, owned 70% to 80% of the land. While 90% of the rural population, including poor peasants, employed peasants, middle peasants, and others, owned only 20% to 30% of the land. They worked year-round but couldn't make ends meet.
Once farmers own land, they devote their entire lives to it.
Land is the foundation of the people. In 1946, Yuanbao village became one of the first places where the CPC initiated land reform, and was hailed as the first village to conduct land reform in China.
The place where we are standing is where the first stake was driven to redistribute the land when the land reform began. Right at this corner of the triangular field. Every time we are here, we think of the past. Only after the land was redistributed during the land reform did our lives get better day by day.
In 1950, the land reform law of the PRC was enacted. This law embodied the dream of Chinese farmers for thousands of years to have their own land. By the spring of 1953, except for some ethnic minority areas, land reform had been widely implemented across Chinese mainland. More than 300 million farmers received about 46.667 million hectares of land and a lot of production materials for free. Besides, they no longer had to pay over 30 million tons of crop rent to landlords each year. In 1978, 18 farmers in Shaogung Village, Fengyang County, Anhui Province, pressed their fingerprints on a secret agreement of delegating production responsibility to households.
If you go to jail for breaking the law, we'll support your family till your children turn 18.
The 18 red fingerprints of Shaogung villagers not only brought a bumper harvest for the entire village that year, but also marked the beginning of rural reform across the country. In 1984, almost all production teams in China had implemented the household contract responsibility system. Grain output exceeded 400 million tons, and the per capita grain availability reached the world average of 400 kilograms for the first time. At that year's Food and Agriculture Organization conference, the Chinese government solemnly announced to the world that China had basically solved the problem of food and clothing.
The land system is the most important production relation. To have enough food, the relationship between farmers and land must be resolved. The relationship between farmers and land is also the main issue of China's land reforms.
The question of who could feed China has become a problem of the past. But for a country with a population of over 1.4 billion, it remains an eternal issue that can never be neglected today or in the future. Ensuring food security for over 1.4 billion people is the top priority of governance in the process of realizing Chinese modernization, and the foundation for building a modern socialist country. General Secretary Xi Jinping emphasized that having grain in hand brings peace of mind, and this is true at all times. China should always have control over its own food supply. After grain and ear, there's harvest and there's sowing. In Taihe County, Anhui Province, it is the critical time for wheat harvesting. Congxiang, a large-scale grain grower, and his grandson went to their wheat field in the morning to meet the bountiful harvest.
Everyone, get ready to start the machine.
It only takes 5 combined harvesters equipped with Beidou navigation satellite system 10 hours to complete the harvest of 66.67 hectares of wheat. This is the China speed today in the vast fields.
The grains are full. It's a bountiful harvest. Very good. 1 hectare can yield over 750 kilograms more.
More than 50 years ago, Congxiang graduated from high school. He gave up the opportunity of being a teacher in the city and went back to the village. He studied agricultural science and sought advice from many agricultural experts. These notebooks record not only the growth status of crops, but also his years of hard work and dedication. Hard work pays off. In 2011, Xu managed to increase the yield from below 4,500 kilograms to over 10,500 kilograms per hectare, becoming the renowned wheat king in Anhui province.
In 2011, Xi Jinping, who was then the vice president and a member of the Politburo Standing Committee, visited my agricultural park. He emphasized that we should step up efforts to develop and expand the use of new technologies and crop varieties, and grow grains scientifically to guarantee our food production security.
Keeping this in mind, Xu has made steady progress in scientific farming. Nowadays, field observation equipment has evolved from magnifying glasses to crop diseases and insect pests monitoring stations, making farming easier and increasing yields. But this old man in his 70s has become even busier. All of this stems from another instruction from Xi Jinping.
In 2022, we achieved a bumper harvest, with wheat yields exceeding 12,000 kilograms per hectare. I wrote a letter to the General Secretary. I posted on June 1st, and on June 27th I received a reply. The General Secretary said in the letter that large-scale grain producers should leverage their advantages, apply modern agricultural technologies, and lead smallholders to expand grain production and improve grain quality.
Congxiang has always remembered his responsibility and set up the Taihe County Large-Scale Grain Growers Association. It encourages large-scale farmers to help smallholders, turn small fields into large fields, and provides comprehensive management. Today, the average annual income of over 3,000 farmers has increased from 16,000 yuan to nearly 30,000 yuan.
Take this year as an example. In the past, encountering such droughts with no rain for over 40 days would have significantly reduced yields. This year, with scientific management and technical exchanges within the association, the yields are quite good.
According to the third National Agricultural Census, smallholders accounted for more than 98% of all agricultural players. Smallholders made up 90% of agricultural workers and cultivated 70% of the total farmland. China is still a large country with a large population of smallholders. To help smallholders catch up with modern agriculture, social services for agriculture are indispensable.
Hello, the farming service station. What can I do for you?
July is the best time for transplanting middle season rice in Fujian. Call the farming service station, and people will help you farm. This has become common sense among villagers in Jiaocheng district, Ningde city.
One call and they'll come. They grow the seedlings and transplant them for me.
In Huangtian village, there are many elderly people like Huang Xiaozu. Like most Chinese villages, it also faces the problem of who will farm and how to farm.
Given Jiaocheng's geography, topography, and landforms, if farmers do farm work manually, they generally lose money. We gathered capable business entities and some agricultural machinery operators to provide mechanized services for farmers. By doing this, one can save about 15,000 yuan per hectare in operating costs.
Nowadays, 9 towns in Jiaocheng district have 11 farming service stations, serving 1,300 business entities across the district. The government allocates funds of 3.35 million yuan annually, with 70% going to entities receiving agricultural mechanization services, 15% going to service teams providing these services, and 15% going to machinery operators assisting with such services. In Xintang village on Sandu Island, Zhou Xiaochun is tilling the soil. Seeing the great prospects of farming, the agricultural machinery operator from the Chishi Town farming service stations contracted 40 hectares of wasteland on the island in 2024.
It originally belonged to the villagers, with each having a small piece. After I contracted them, I leveled them all. Now I do everything with machines.
The island is surrounded by the sea. It was not easy for Zhou to reclaim the wasteland. The machinery must be transported to the dock from Chishi Town farming service station by truck, and then to the island by cargo ship. But Zhou is going at it, because he has done the math.
There's a subsidy of 480,000 yuan a year. According to my estimation, if the rice can yield 6 tons per hectare, I can earn about 1 million yuan a year.
There's less idle land. Simply put, there was more grass in the mountains, but now there's more grain.
To ensure food security from a high starting point, we should focus on promoting the construction of a modern agricultural management system. As of the end of May 2024, nearly 4 million family farms have been included in the National Family Farm Directory System. 2.185 million farmer cooperatives have been legally registered, and 1.094 million entities have carried out social services, serving more than 94 million smallholders.
Achieving the modernization of small-scale agriculture, from a global perspective, is a unique topic in the modernization process. We must place the innovation of agricultural management systems in the most prominent position. On the one hand, we can slowly realize large-scale operations by improving contracting relationships. On the other hand, we should adopt social services to address the various challenges and difficulties faced by smallholders and modern agriculture.
风吹麦浪，稻花儿香，黑土地养育了咱的爹娘。
After the beginning of summer, with more rainfall and rising temperatures, it is time to transplant rice seedlings. In Heilongjiang, China's largest grain producer, the special train arrives as scheduled.
I was transplanting rice seedlings at 4 p.m. on my own land. After that, I drove to Suihua Station and got on the train, making more money.
As one of the 3 typical black soil areas in the world, Sanjiang Plain in Heilongjiang Province is China's major grain-producing area and commercial grain production base. Every spring, many workers are needed for rice seedling preparation and transplanting. In 2000, the train for transporting such workers was put into use. In 2013, the number of passengers of the special train reached its peak. In the same year, China's total grain output exceeded 600 million tons for the first time. Since then, grain production capacity has steadily increased. By 2023, it has been over 650 million tons for 9 consecutive years. In 2024, China fully implemented a new round of actions to increase the grain production capacity by 50 million tons. Summer grain production is the first step to having a bumper harvest for the whole year.
We must take the soil samples accurately, not missing a single piece.
The strategy of sustainable farmland use and innovative application of agricultural technology is an important measure to ensure food security. At Qianjin Farm, all 57,333.33 hectares of farmland are black soil. They are taking soil samples to test the content of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and trace elements in the soil to provide data references for fertilization.
With the formulation, we can increase yield without increasing fertilizer use.
Black soil is recognized as fertile soil in the world. People often describe its preciousness with the saying, 1 kilo of soil is worth 2 kilos of oil. However, since black soil was brought under cultivation, due to overuse, undermaintenance, and wind and water erosion, the thickness of black soil in northeast China has decreased by nearly 40 centimeters. Protecting the rare cultivated land is to ensure national food security. When Zhang Yan and his team are protecting the black soil in micrograms, Professor Liu Huanjun from Northeast Institute of Geography and Agroecology, Chinese Academy of Sciences, is leading a team to conduct a comprehensive examination of the black soil from the sky at Youyi Farm, more than 180 kilometers away.
We use satellite, drone, and ground data collection, which we call sky-space ground data, to scan the black soil. Or more vividly, to perform a CT scan, to know the details of the land from multiple dimensions.
In Jilin, protecting black soil has gradually formed a 5-in-1 model, consisting of academician workstations, SNT alliances, SNT backyards, extension stations, and demonstration farmers. On the black soil, the area of protective farming models is expanding year by year, which is the practice of the Black Soil Protection Law in light of specific conditions. As the world's first national law on the utilization and protection of black soil resources, it was implemented on August 1, 2022.
Liaoning, Jilin, Heilongjiang, and Inner Mongolia have all formulated some local regulations to support the better implementation of the Black Soil Protection Law locally.
Regarding the relationship between farmland and grain, General Secretary Xi Jinping once made a vivid analogy. Farmland is the lifeline of grain production. The report to the 20th National Congress of the CPC pointed out that we should ensure the area of farmland remains above the red line of 120 million hectares and gradually develop all permanent basic cropland into high-standard cropland. From northeast China to Central Plains, from Sichuan Basin to Jiangnan region. By the end of 2023, the total area of high-standard cropland nationwide has exceeded 66.67 million hectares, accounting for more than half of all farmland. New quality productive forces have played their role in high-standard cropland, putting us in a stronger position to ensure the food supply of the Chinese people. In the hot August, super hybrid rice enters a critical period of breeding. As a key member of Yuan Longping's research team, Deng Huafeng is working hard in the fields to continue the dream of high-yield rice.
Currently, the yield of super hybrid rice has surpassed the target of 18 tons per hectare. Our next target is 20,250 kilograms, which is the goal proposed by Mr. Yuan. 20 tons per hectare.
General Secretary Xi Jinping once said that China should always have control over its own food supply. High yield, higher yield, and super high yield are eternal themes.
Yuan had two dreams: to enjoy the cool under rice crops taller than men and to see hybrid rice grown globally. Over the decades, he had continuously increased the average yield of rice per hectare from the initial 4,500 kilograms. The increased rice from planting hybrid rice each year can feed an additional 70 million people, making a significant contribution to China's and the world's food security. In the last decade of his life, the father of hybrid rice had a new goal: to grow high-yield rice on China's vast saline alkali land, to feed more people.
China has limited farmland, a bit more than 120 million hectares, but we have about 100 hectares of saline alkali land. We want to develop 6.67 million hectares. If we plant 6.67 million hectares of seawater rice with a yield of 4,500 kilograms per hectare, it can increase rice production by 30 billion kilograms, feeding an additional 80 million people.
The 33.33 million hectares of saline alkali land with development potential are a potential granary for increasing grain production. Proper use of saline alkali land is crucial for national food security. In October 2021, when visiting the agricultural high-tech industrial demonstration area of the Yellow River Delta, Xi Jinping said that the comprehensive use of saline alkali land is of strategic importance to national food security and food supply. In May 2023, during an inspection in Suzhou, Hebei Province, She stressed that it is a strategic issue to comprehensively utilize saline alkali land, and great importance should be attached to it. From the Yellow and Bohai Sea regions to the farthest inland areas of Xinjiang. From the Hetao Plain to the Songnan Plain. From North China Plain to irrigation areas along the Yellow River, agricultural scientists are conducting experiments on various types of saline alkali land to explore tailored and unique management and utilization routes for each area.
Improving saline alkali land can not only ensure China's food security, but also increase farmers' income and significantly contribute to consolidating the achievements of poverty alleviation.
At 5 p.m., people are preparing for the night fishing of large yellow croakers. Workers continuously strike the water surface to drive the timid fish into the net, ready to be caught after dark.
About 20 tons. I can make about 1 million yuan per day.
On Chinese dining tables, 8 out of every 10 large yellow croakers come from Ningde. The large yellow croaker is a marine fish unique to China. It has been a delicacy on the southeast coasts since ancient times. However, in the 1970s, Liu Jiafu experienced a tragedy with large yellow croakers.
It was the spring of 1974, during the springtide period from May to June, when large yellow croakers were supposed to spawn. No fish came in to spawn.
Overfishing, which is a destructive practice, caused wild yellow croaker to be on the verge of depletion. Liu Jiafu was working at the Lianjiang County Fishery Bureau. He had an idea to preserve the large yellow fish through artificial breeding. However, in an era before the fourth wave of mariculture in China, it was difficult to conduct artificial breeding of the fish. In 1988, Liu mustered the courage to submit a report on developing marine fish farming technology in eastern Fujian to the CPC Ningde Prefectural Committee. Xi Jinping, who was the secretary of the committee, made instructions on the report.
This is the report I submitted to the CPC Ningde Prefectural Committee. As the secretary of the CPC Ningde Prefectural Committee, Xi Jinping made instructions on it, which injected strong impetus into our research team.
As time passed, the paper has now turned yellow. But the resolute determination to harvest food from seas remains evident. Since then, Ningde City has continuously increased its scientific research efforts and expanded the scale of artificial breeding of large yellow croakers. Today, the large yellow croaker has become the largest marine fish species in terms of scale and one of the leading export aquaculture products of China, with an industry chain value exceeding 10 billion yuan. General Secretary Xi Jinping pointed out that to address problems in food supply and food security, we should adopt a greater food approach and harvest food from both land and sea. By engaging in marine farming to develop marine farms and blue granaries.
Welcome everyone to visit the large-scale smart aquaculture vessel project.
Located on the coast of Qingdao, this smart fishery integrated monitoring platform has welcomed another group of foreign visitors. Everyone's attention is focused on the real-time information displayed on the big screen. All data comes from the deep sea area 50 kilometers away from the coastline.
This is the central control room. This is the operation console. Currently, from the entry of large yellow croaker fry into the cabin to daily breeding, harvesting, and processing, all can be controlled automatically and intelligently.
Guixin 1 is the world's first deep-sea enclosed aquaculture vessel. It is 249.9 meters long, with 15 farming cabins of nearly 90,000 cubic meters, equivalent to the size of 36 standard swimming pools. The annual fish production can reach up to 3,200 tons. Today, this mobile ocean ranch, after traveling more than 4,000 kilometers, has ushered in the harvest season.
The fish are coming in, ready to close the net. Okay, now. Close it tight, move slowly. Try to collect all the fish. After the large yellow croakers are harvested, they are kept fresh in dormancy pools and transferred to shore-based plants in barrels. They are expected to reach the consumers within 24 hours.
As the first country in the world where aquaculture production exceeds fishing, China is harvesting food from forests, from rivers, lakes and seas, and from protected agriculture. Today, the Chinese people are consuming various foods. The per capita consumption of staple grains has decreased from 248 kilograms in 1978 to 130 kilograms. Meanwhile, the demand for meat, eggs, milk, vegetables, fruits, and fish has increased.
The greater food approach is the unity of the greater agriculture approach, the greater market approach, and the greater security approach. It provides new concepts, perspectives, and methods for ensuring food security and speeding up the construction of a strong agriculture in the new era. In ensuring food security, we must not only focus on quantity security, but also emphasize capability security, nutritional security, ecological security, and quality security.
As an observer from a major agricultural country, Pakistan's ambassador to China, Khalil Hashmi, is impressed by China's people-centered development philosophy in agriculture.
China has developed a very successful model of rural development, agriculture development. So I think what China has been able to do is also develop the technologies at scale, but also to develop seeds which can give you higher yield with less effort. So putting it all together, but working also in a very focused manner on rural areas. So developing and enabling, empowering rural communities. So this model, I think, has been defined by people-centered.
In midsummer, the rural complex is filled with blooming flowers and fragrant fruits, attracting many citizens to visit.
In the past, rural people yearned for the city, but now city people long for the countryside.
In the rural complex covering an area of 466.6 hectares, the primary, secondary and tertiary industries are integrated, enabling 300 villagers to find jobs near their homes. The once abandoned homeland has become a desirable destination for city dwellers.
Previously, this area was like hills, and a lot of land was abandoned. Annual income from agriculture was only about 2,000 yuan. After land transfer, the area has been leveled, and our wages are around 5,000 yuan. The land transfer fee is 9,000 yuan per hectare per year.
To better promote the development of rural industries, more funds need to be invested.
Excuse me, the certificate is ready. What should I do next to get a loan? This green certificate is crucial for enterprises. We have turned intangible assets into tangible assets, which can be used to obtain financing from banks.
In 2009, Wuhan took the lead to explore and practice the separation of ownership, contractual, and management rights of contracted rural land. This dark green covered property rights transfer transaction certificate is equivalent to a management rights certificate. Over the past 15 years, Wuhan Comprehensive Rural Equity Exchange has issued nearly 3,000 certificates, one of which is the most precious.
This archive is from when General Secretary Xi Jinping visited the exchange. When seeing the green certificate, he pointed to the content and read it quietly, asking what the transfer and transferee were.
Just over 3 months after General Secretary Xi Jinping's inspection, The third plenary session of the 18th CPC Central Committee proposed to endow farmers with the rights to land tenure, land use, land revenue, land transfer, and mortgage and guarantee of contracted land use. Later, the central government officially issued a document to separate the ownership, contractual, and management rights of contracted rural land. This has reassured both farmers and agricultural operators.
The theory of the separation of the three is an important historical milestone in the process of rural reform. It optimizes the allocation of elements, better adapts to the needs of developing a market economy, arouses farmers' enthusiasm, and better releases and develops productive forces.
The third plenary session of the 20th CPC Central Committee proposed to consolidate and improve the basic rural operation system, improve supporting systems to strengthen agriculture, benefit farmers, and enrich rural areas, and deepen reform of the land system. From over 200 million farmers receiving land contracting certificates to clearer collective property rights, farmers' property rights have increased. Across the vast land, the battle of rural vitalization is in full swing, and the drum of common prosperity has sounded.
Everyone, are you ready?
On summer nights, a gentle breeze blows. Every weekend, a rural concert is performed in Xinguang Village, Congxiang County.
I'm from Hubei.
I'm from Zhoushan.
I didn't expect the event to achieve this scale.
These visitors from afar can hardly imagine that this vibrant village was once a heavily polluted village with only 28 residents left. In the early 1980s, to develop the economy, the local government introduced the crystal processing industry, making Xinguang Village famous as a crystal village. However, behind the high profits was the reality of high pollution.
We exhausted all resources. We counted money on the garbage dump and spent it in the hospital.
Xinguang Village was not the only one in Zhejiang facing such challenges in the early 21st century. To completely address the common issues of dirtiness, disorder, and poor conditions in rural areas, Xi Jinping, who was then the secretary of the Zhejiang Provincial Committee, planned and promoted the Green Rural Revival Program in 2003. Congxiang County took strong measures to treat water pollution and promote industrial transformation, rectifying the local crystal industry. It relocated the crystal processing plants in Xinguang Village to the Pujiang Crystal Industrial Park. Villagers not only saw clear waters and green mountains return, but also boarded the fast track to common prosperity.
The time for villagers to get to the city has been shortened from more than an hour to just 15 minutes. Along this route, the number of tourism projects grew from 2 in 2015 to 31 now. So this road has significantly boosted the development of agriculture, culture, and tourism in the area.
You can put it here. We can start now.
In 2015, Chen Qingsong brought over 20 college students to Xinguang Village as a professional manager.
We are now arriving at the most beautiful river of Xinguang Village.
They help and encourage villagers to revive traditional crafts, sell local products, run agritainment businesses, and hold live concerts. Ye Mudun opened a snack bar. She has to work from dawn to dusk, but life is becoming more promising.
The young makers come, and tourists also come. We now cook rice with spring water, and they all say it tastes great. I can make over 100,000 yuan a year.
I think the great significance of doing this is that it allows farmers to make money in their hometown, while making it easier for young people to start businesses. So I believe we are on the right path.
The per capita disposable income of Xinguang village residents increased from less than 10,000 yuan in 2003 to 40,000 yuan in 2023, and the annual income of the village collective grew from 100,000 yuan to over 1 million yuan. The remarkable changes of Xinguang village are inseparable from the grassroots practice of the Green Rural Revival Program. By carrying out the set blueprint and making continuous efforts, the program has helped thousands of villages in Zhejiang find the optimal solution for mutual respect and appreciation. For 39 consecutive years, the per capita disposable income of rural residents in Zhejiang has ranked first among all provinces in China, and the income gap between urban and rural residents has narrowed for 11 consecutive years.
Taking precise, targeted and differentiated measures and making unremitting efforts, especially the latter one. The Green Rural Revival Program began with improving the living environment of villages, thrived on the construction of infrastructure and the provision and improvement of basic public services, and succeeded due to the enhancement of governance capacity and governance systems of rural areas. Now, their goal is urban-rural integration and common prosperity.
The Green Rural Revival Program has led the way, and the Beautiful Villages Program has improved it. In 2021, Zhejiang became the first demonstration zone for achieving common prosperity, achieving the iterative upgrade of prosperous villages. With 20 years of leapfrog development and unremitting efforts, the Green Rural Revival Program, originating from Zhejiang, has outlined a vivid image of the beautiful countryside. From the provincial level to the national level, the Green Rural Revival Program is taking root across China. In 2022, the per capita disposable income of rural residents in China exceeded 20,000 yuan for the first time. With a strong agriculture, a beautiful countryside, and well-off farmers, China is drawing a more desirable picture of agriculture, rural areas, and rural people in the blueprint of modernization for a great nation.